a few people. Oh, we're recording this apparently. Okay, continue. So I guess if you weren't at the last meeting, I just want to give you a super quick recap and just say we talked a lot about marketing plans and creating a good marketing plan for your real estate business. And this next, what we're going to talk about tonight, which is tracking systems, really builds on that the last meeting where hopefully you were able to figure out what kinds of marketing actions were really important for your business. So let me pop over into my slides. I'm gonna share my screen. And let's see, here we go. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be talking about tracking systems tonight, marketing metrics, and follow-up systems. And the goal for tonight is that it's very hands-on, that it's very workshop style. And so I'm going to get to that in just a minute, but I do want you to feel totally comfortable with asking questions as we go. Like I said, I want this to be interactive. So what we're going to cover tonight is number one, why tracking matters for your business. I know that, it should be a duh, but I think that, just getting that extra motivation can be really helpful for some of us to get over the hump of not wanting to do it. Because number two, we're going to talk about reasons people resist tracking. I think a lot of you are going to resonate with at least one of the things that I've listed here. And then finally, at the end, we're actually going to go into the tracking system workshop. I do want to say, every business is different. It's very difficult to capture a perfect system that covers everybody. So what I'm going to walk you through is principles, fundamentals, ideas. It's not going to cover everything. There's going to be holes in it because there's no way I can create something that's going to work perfectly for each one of you. But, so use your thinking cap and really, see what's missing for you, what you need, but do take what I have created as an initial template and start to work with it and build. So I'm going to give you a minute right now. Like I said, this is hands-on. We're doing, workshop style tonight. So find some kind of a spreadsheet you can use, digital spreadsheet. So if you have Excel, open Excel right now. If you use Google Sheets, go ahead and open up a Google Sheet. It can be as simple as a Word document for now and just create a table that will do. But ideally, you want to create a spreadsheet in the future. So I'm going to give you just a minute to do that. And we're going to I'm going to give some presentation, then we're going to pause for a minute, and you're going to go ahead and do the activity that I have laid out for you to do, and then we'll come back. So you'll want to be ready to toggle between the Zoom and the spreadsheet that you're working on. Okay, so as you're getting that sheet open, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of who I am. My name is Allie Parnell. I am the CEO and marketing specialist of Allie & Co Marketing. I have 9 years in marketing, web development, and video production. I was a producer on a full-length independent film in 2014 that was actually filmed here in North Carolina. I was formerly certified in YouTube audience growth and development. It requires yearly updating, so I've chosen to let that go for now, but I have a lot of experience and understanding in the YouTube algorithm. I've worked with dozens and dozens of small businesses in various stages of growth, and I've also invested tens of thousands of dollars into my own marketing, business, and video education. So really my experience is quite broad, which gives me a really cool perspective to see how all of the marketing puzzle pieces fit together. A little bit about my company. We are a boutique marketing agency. We provide small businesses and course creators the expertise and support they need to become more successful and organized as they build and grow their business with less stress. That's always the thing that's very important to me, is I want things to be less stressful. And we lean very heavily on the belief that marketing should be relational, that it should be ethical, and that it should be rewarding. And over on the right-hand side, you can see just some of the services that we offer. Okay, so let's dive into why tracking matters. So if hopefully you're done finding your spreadsheet and getting that open. We're going to go very, very step by step in just a little bit. But toggle back over to the Zoom and let's talk about why tracking matters. So before we can talk about like the good part about tracking, let's actually talk about what happens when you don't track your marketing. And the big question that I have for you, which hopefully you already know the answer to, is can you make good business decisions when you don't track your marketing? I hope you would answer no, but just think about it for a minute. If you don't track your marketing, can you actually make good quality business decisions? So when you think about that, without the data that you collect from regularly tracking your business and marketing efforts, it's very common that you'll end up making marketing and business decisions that are based on how you feel about things rather than on facts and clear data. Without the data, you can also end up making choices that are based on what's popular or trending. So you can get very shiny object syndrome, like, ooh, that's working for them. Maybe I should try that. Oh, maybe I should try this over here. Oh, that's a really popular trend. Maybe I'm missing out. Maybe I should try this. If you don't have a history of data to help guide your decisions, then you're going to just be looking for the next best thing. And well, we'll get to that in a minute, but it doesn't lead to good things. And then finally, you end up making choices based on what seems to be working rather than on what's actually working. And I think we can, sometimes we try a strategy and it works really, really well for a couple weeks or something. And you can kind of get blinded by that success. Like, oh, wow, it's working so well. This is amazing. But if you look at the historical data that you've hopefully been tracking, you may see that that particular strategy is not working as well as something else that you've done before. So these are some really key reasons why this regular data collection is so important. And basically, we can end up running our businesses based on emotions and impulse rather than data and facts. When we run our businesses on emotion and impulse, it leads to, like I already described, distractions. It leads to inconsistent marketing. It leads to avoiding marketing because you're like, I don't even know what to do. So let's just ignore it and do what I feel comfortable with. And then you also end up wasting money and time. And you can also feel like you're constantly putting out fires because you just don't have strategy and a system to follow. But what we actually want when we're working on our marketing and building our business is clear and confident decision making. We want consistent marketing so that we can actually see results. We want systems that reduce stress, and we want our money and our time to be well spent on the marketing efforts that we are doing. So this is why you need to track your marketing. So hopefully all of these reasons made marketing tracking a little bit more attractive to work on, because it will get a little bit nitty gritty in a little bit and it can feel a little, not so exciting. But I hope that these points can really help motivate you to find that this is important. So what can you do with the data? So we're going to talk a lot about tracking, and this may sound, for those of you who have some finance background, you can kind of think about marketing tracking like your bookkeeping. It's like your bookkeeping for marketing. And then once you have some history of data, you can turn it into really interesting numbers. So a few things that you can do with your data is you can look at your customer lifetime value, which is basically how many customers do you need to meet your financial goals. So that piece of information can help you decide how to structure your business and where you should focus your energy so that you can meet financial goals you have. You can learn from your data the cost per acquisition. In other words, how much does it cost to get a client? If you don't have this data, then, honestly, it's like you could be spending more money to get a client than you actually make from them. And so this piece of information is very, very important. With your data, you can also look at your cost per lead. So how much are leads for you? Another important one is your lead to customer or client conversion rate. So this answers the question of, does your sales system need work, or is it already working really well? So if your conversion rate, say you get a bunch of leads, but you're not converting them into sales, into closed deals, then that system probably needs some help. And so each of these numbers can, and data points can really help you figure out where the holes are in your business. And honestly, there are so many more different kinds of what might be called key performance indicators, KPIs, and numbers that you can look at. I don't want to overwhelm you tonight, so we're not going to talk about all of them or go super in depth even with these. The thing I really want you guys to get tonight is the tracking system, because if you can at least start tracking, then you can get help figuring out these numbers. You can do these numbers later, but if you're not tracking, you can't figure any of this out. Okay, so 3 reasons that people resist tracking. Number 1, I'm not a numbers person. I definitely hear that one a lot. The thing with tracking, though, is that it's not so much about being good with numbers as it is about being diligent to follow a system. So like I've said, we're creating a system tonight for tracking things. This is not about trying to find all of those, cost per lead, cost per acquisition, all of that right now. This is really just about creating a system. You don't have to be a numbers person to do this. Reason number 2 is I don't have time. Well, yes, it does take more time to set up your systems, but once you get it going, that data is going to save you tons of time and money in the future. You really have to think long term. And so you just want to be able to set aside some extra time, get it done, develop those systems, and I promise in the long run, it's going to pay off. Okay, and number 3 is I don't know what to track. And this can lead to kind of the analysis paralysis thing, where you can get so overwhelmed by all the different things that you kind of just ignore it. Like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to stop. And this is the big one that we're going to end up addressing tonight. But the big thing I want to say to that is start simple. Start with what you have. Don't try to do everything at once. Create a simple system for what you can easily do now and make a habit to continue to build out this system. And I'm going to repeat that last part. Make a habit to continue to build out this system. I actually didn't create a slide for this particular point, although I kind of wish that I did. But one thing I would like you guys to do right now is just write down a specific time. Just, you can change it later, but I would really recommend setting aside 30 minutes to an hour every other week to look at your system. Like, if you don't have a good system, and if you're here, that's, you probably don't have a system built, or maybe you have a very basic one, I would build a habit to continue to revise this system, because you're not going to be able to build the system just one time, set it and forget it. I wish you could, but it's going to evolve as your business grows. And as you get more data, you're going to realize you're going to want additional data points. And so if you're in this early stage of building your system, you're really going to want to set aside time every week, every other week, at least once a month, to reviewing your system and see what additional pieces of information you need. I hope that makes sense. I think, yes, okay. So we're going to get into creating your custom tracking system, but I'm going to pause right here. And if there's any questions, go ahead and either pop them in the chat, or you can take yourself off mute and ask those questions. No questions?
I don't see any from the team members, but is there a specific, like, if you only are trying one marketing venue that you track, like, how would you suggest tracking, immediately? A lot of the members are new to investing, so they really have not spent a great deal on marketing yet. So, but I think the great part of what you're teaching here today is the minute you start, you should start tracking. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, that is such a good point. Yeah, if you are brand new, this is not an advanced technique for experienced investors. This presentation is specifically geared towards like the newer level business owner, real estate investor, because you absolutely should be tracking right from the get-go. If any marketing effort you are doing, you should be tracking at least a couple data points from that effort. Because if, say, you're doing, even something like social media, if you're posting on social media for your business with the goal of getting more leads and getting more traffic to your website or whatever that goal is for that action, if you're not tracking the data and if it's working, you're wasting your time because you don't know if it's effective or not and you have nothing to compare it to. So yes, any marketing action that you're already doing, and we're going to talk about that in a second, you should be tracking data points for. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I'm going to get right into it. So this is the part where we're going to be toggling back and forth between my screen and your screen. So just be ready to go from Zoom to your spreadsheet and then back to Zoom. Hopefully it's not too confusing. So number one is very simple. So list and categorize your marketing actions. So what I mean by a marketing action, this is going to be sending out mailers, and be even more specific. Send out mailers to such and such zip code. Cold calling, sending text messages, posting on social media. Trying to think of some other things off the fly. So take a minute, and whether it's in your spreadsheet or just on a piece of paper, we're going to transfer it to your spreadsheet in a second. But write down what marketing actions you are currently taking in your business or that you are planning to take within the next 30 days. Don't create this for several months from now. This is for you right here, right now. And as you're doing that, I would love for you guys to go ahead and just put at least one of the actions that you're doing in the chat right now. If you're willing to, go ahead and list several of them. Is anyone listing?
How are you getting some? I don't know if you can see it, but these are, and guys, they're really good ones. That's driving for dollars. That's where in the real estate world, you drive around and you look at houses that look like they're dilapidated or that they would be good fixer-uppers, and you jot down the address.
Mm-hmm.
You've got code calling, door knocking, emailing, following up. You've got lists.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like driving for dollars is a big one. Bandit signs are when you see those signs on the side of the road that say, Dan buys houses or we buy houses. Radio, somebody's doing radio ads. Good for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So, yeah, the reason why I'm asking, because if I go to the chat, then you guys won't be able to see my screen.
You can't see, yeah.
So I don't want to confuse you guys. So that's why I'm going to ask someone else to read it for me. Okay, awesome. So great. It sounds like you guys are already doing some great marketing actions. So let's talk about categorizing your marketing actions. So there are 3 levels of action of where your actions are going to fall. You have the top, mid, and bottom. The top is the actions that lead you to reach new people for the first time. So this can look like the radio ads, the bandit signs, door knocking, cold calling. A lot of these things that you guys are doing are probably in the top level. The mid level is building the relationship to move them closer to conversion. Most of the time, people are not learning about you for the first time and immediately ready to pay you. There's a process, a nurturing process that happens. And so things like an email list, YouTube videos where you're giving regular content, follow-up. I mean, follow-up is like the king of all things. That definitely falls into the mid-range. And then in the bottom, this is where they move from prospect to a purchaser. So this is where they convert into a buyer for you. And so what I want you to do is label each of the marketing actions that you're doing as top, mid, or bottom. And if you need any help, feel free to pop it into the chat if you're really unsure. But something that I want you to look at as you're doing this and listing out your marketing actions, are you sort of top heavy, if you will, in one particular area? Or are you missing an area? Are you missing that mid-level of building relationships and you only have your marketing actions for reaching new people and conversion? Or do you not have a conversion process? Or, you know, like where do your actions fall? Like you should have at least one action that you're doing for each of these levels, and they should correlate to each other. And so go ahead and flip over to your spreadsheet. And what I want you to do is at the top of your spreadsheet, just write marketing action, and I want you to write category. And under marketing action, write the action that you're taking that you jotted down on a piece of paper, and make sure that it's very like a SMART goal, where it's like cold call 20 people per week. Like, what is that goal for the marketing action? Not just cold calling, but like be specific. Mail 20 letters per week to such and such probate list. Send 20 letters per week to the Drive for Dollar houses, and put the category of where this action falls in that pyramid I showed you. So I'll give you guys a minute. Okay, are there any questions before I move on to the next? And give 5 seconds for any questions. Okay, so the next stage of this process, I want you to think about, this is brainstorming the process for how you actually achieve your marketing action. So I will say that this is less on the tracking side and much more on the implementation side. But I felt like this was important to include in the presentation because you do want to be thinking about the steps and who's going to actually be doing this, because chances are you don't want to do this all the time. You want to be able to offload. So I want you guys to be able to walk away with something that kind of helps you outsource a little bit. So some things to think about. I'm going to flip through the next couple slides, like back and forth a little bit, but the questions are, what is your process to complete this particular marketing action? How often do you do this marketing action? And where do you find the information on the results from this marketing action? So that was kind of a lot, but let's say that your marketing action is cold calling people. So how often do you do this particular task? And then when you get results from this, as in like people call you back or answer the phone, where do you find this info? Is it tracked somewhere? Do you have a cold caller who's tracking on a spreadsheet? Another example would be email. So if you're doing email marketing, like your action is sending out email newsletters, and you do it, say, once a week. The results from that, where do you find the info on it, would be in your analytics on your email provider, and that's going to tell you, how many people opened your email or how many people clicked on the link. And some other things to consider are the goals of the action and why it matters. So you're going to continue to add to that initial spreadsheet, and you're going to have a category for how it's done. So you're going to just quickly type up the process, where the information is stored, goals of this action, and why it matters. The goals of the action and why it matters, that's not so important for tonight. I don't need to like, worry too much about that, but it's just something to think about to make sure you're always staying anchored to your bigger business goals, because it can get really easy. Again, like I really want to keep people away from the shiny object syndrome and like getting distracted by things. And so I think having the goals to make sure that you're staying on target and then why it matters just keeps us really grounded in what we're doing, so we're not getting distracted by all the possibilities. So I'll give you a couple minutes, especially to fill out how it's done and where the info is stored. And what I will say for tonight, for the rest of the presentation, is just focus on 1 to 2 marketing actions. It's going to take way too long if you are trying to fill this out for like 5 to 10 different things that you're doing. So just choose one and you can go back and fill the rest of this in later for the rest of your marketing actions. So I'm going to set a timer on my phone for 30 seconds. And when my timer goes off, we will keep moving forward. And in that time, in the 30 seconds, just feel free to shoot a question into the chat. Okay. Did any questions pop up?
No, I had one just asking whether or not they should be building their own, or if you were going to provide this as an example. But I think the intention is for them to build their own as you go.
Yes, yeah. So I do not have anything for you to download tonight. This is very specific to your business, and so you should definitely be building your own as we're going right now, and ask the questions that you need to get this done. Okay, so
I was going to say, and Allie, even if, I mean, I'm an Excel person, I love Excel,
yeah.
but if you're not overly comfortable with Excel, and you could do it in Word, right? I mean, the important is to just document it somewhere and then keep it updated and review it. Excel is easiest.
Yep.
You're going to export the data, but.
Totally. Yeah, and if anyone needs a quick little tutorial, maybe at the very end, if there's anyone who needs it, I can just do a quick like Google Sheets just to show you how to do that. So just let me know if that's you. Yeah, if Word definitely works for this as well, to an extent. As long as you can insert your tables and columns, you'll be fine. But this is kind of assuming that you know how to use Google Sheets or Excel. So moving forward, we have setting up your tabs in your columns. So this should be pretty simple and straightforward, but you want to, for your tabs at the bottom, you have the little plus button. If you're using Google Sheets, you can just add a tab. And so what I've done here for this example is there's the implementation process. So that's what we were just working on, where you had the marketing action, and then the category it's in, the process, and so on and so forth. And then you want to look at things per quarter. So just put January to March, April to June, July to September, October to December. I have a little notes tab there just for myself. And then all you'll do is we'll work on the January to March one. I mean, obviously we're way past this, but this is kind of what it would look like to set it up for the year. And so you can do July to September if you want, and then just copy and paste the whole thing, and then just paste it into the other months once we set up the first sheet. So that's what your tabs will look like for the quarter. And then for your columns, at the top of the sheet, you'll want to have week 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your summary, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, summary again, 1, 2, 3, 4, summary again. I kind of ran out of space there. So if you need help with that, let me know. But I think that should be pretty simple to do. So I'll give you guys another minute or two to get that set up. Okay, moving forward. So number 4, this is where start to get into a little bit more fun stuff. So this is just establishing your basic financial or deal tracking. This is not going to be really in-depth financials. That's totally different. That's for your bookkeeper, your CPI. But we do need to have some amount of financials on here, just the high level stuff, so that you can actually later on calculate, all the different lead acquisition things and things that I said. So,
Hey, Allie, I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. We do have a question. Alicia's wanting to know if the weeks are in the same book as the questions, or do you create a separate book, Excel workbook?
yes, good question. Yes, I created a different tab for the quarter. So sorry, I should have showed that a little bit better. Let me go back. So the first one that had all the questions in it, that's your implementation process tab right here. So this is something that you might share with somebody who's helping you track everything. And this would sort of be your operations manual, if you will, like a really simple version. Then you're going to create a new tab. So this is what I'm about to show you right here. This is everything that's going to be inside of like each of your quarters, January to March, April to June, July to September, October to December. So that's what all the weeks are for, is in the dated tabs. Okay, so the financial tracking. All right, like I said at the very beginning, these are going to be different data points for each of you depending on what your business is. But I think for most of you guys, signed contracts, closed deals, projected profit are probably across the board. And so all you'll do here is just put in, how many signed contracts you got that week, how many closed deals, and then your projected profit based on what came in that week. And then you'll be able to summarize and do your summary in January. And then later on, you'll be able to summarize each of the months into your quarterly, and that's where you can do your bigger quarterly reviews of all of your numbers and really look at what's working, what are the, lead acquisition costs and all of that. And so, when you're doing your marketing, it's very heavily tied into your financials. And so this is like a little plug for good bookkeeping, that, make sure that you're keeping a good record of your expenses and of your bookkeeping, because otherwise, like, you are going to have no idea, like, you're only going to have half the data points, because half of what we're tracking is, how many leads are coming in and your marketing efforts and how much you're putting out there. But the other half is the money and time side of it, and tracking those things so that you can know how much you're getting back when you put money into your marketing. How much are you getting back? Okay, so after you've filled out column A with your signed contracts, closed deals, projected profits, or whatever other points are important for you at a high level, we're going to set up your marketing action info tracking, which is kind of a mouthful. Gets a little bit more complex from here, but not too bad. Like, I'm really trying to keep this very simple. So we're going to look at marketing actions, the results from that, so the leads you get, and then closing results. So again, this is very similar to that funnel that we looked at the beginning, where you have like the top, you have your marketing actions, and it should end up in leads, which then should end up in closed deals. So your marketing action details. So what you can do here is right underneath your, kind of going down a few lines, right underneath the financial details, you'll want to add in a description of each action you're taking. So the number of like if you're doing cold calling, and like I said, we're not going to build this out for every action, just pick one right now. So cold calls made, and you'll actually track how many cold calls are being made in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and so on. And then time spent on it. This is very important. I feel like sometimes people underestimate how important the time component and tracking that is in your marketing. Because say you're spending 10 hours doing something and maybe it doesn't cost a lot of actual money, but it costs you a ton of time. You're going to want that time metric so that you can evaluate how worthwhile certain efforts are from various angles, because it's really not just all about money. Like, you want to streamline your time and make sure that you're having the highest impact that you can. And you don't know that unless you track these things. So, number of cold calls made, then how much time was spent that week doing it? What's the total expense from that? So in the green here, I have the total expense. The second part here is optional. If you want to itemize each expense, then feel free to do that. I would just caution you not to get that number confused with the total expenses. But for some of you, it might actually be really helpful. So say, for example, you're doing the cold calling, but maybe you hire it out to somebody else for, a certain amount per hour, and you have a phone number that you're paying for. So, maybe you just want to do, put it all over here in January as like a monthly. Maybe you're paying someone monthly to do that. Number of probate list mailings. So the time spent doing that, the total expense, and maybe each week, maybe you spend a little bit, like a different amount on, the postage and the printing and all of that. Does that make sense? Okay. So then moving right along. Oh, questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Alicia was asking if the screen can be enlarged. Alicia, you have control of that. And with your Zoom, you just want to change your view to full screen. That's something that's done on the individual level.
So just to summarize here, at the very least, you're going to be writing in your action, the time spent, and the total expense as related to that particular action. Again, there can be multiple more things that you track, but this is the core information that will start to get you some understanding on how expensive your marketing actions are, how much time it's costing you, all of that. And also, I will say, like, there's no one right way to set up these spreadsheets. So I've seen, some people kind of do this, like organize this same information in a different way, where they put all of the time spent in one section, all of the actions in a different section. So it really is this can get very personal, but this is at least a good starting point for you guys. Okay, so then setting up your lead results tracking. So from there, you'll see I kind of screenshotted, from the expenses before. So now lead results. I guess I have added a few different categories here, but website leads, mailing leads, call leads. So this is where your marketing is actually starting to work. You're starting to get people calling you and responding in some way, shape, or form to the actions that you took. So for, let's look at the mailing leads, for example, because I know that's a really common one that people do. So whether you're driving for dollars or you using lists or whatever it is, you're sending out mailings from there. So it's important that you're not just tracking the overall mailing leads that come in, but you want to know which section they came from. Did they come from the driving for dollars in zip code such and such? Did they come from the probate list from such and such date? So make sure that you're categorizing each, like grouping things together so that you can see which things are paying off for you and which things maybe not as much. Another one would be like the call leads. And, at the last presentation, we talked a little bit about social media, and maybe this tracking some of the social media stats can help you evaluate if social media is an important strategy for your business or not. If you're not getting quality leads from social media, you either need to change your strategy, or maybe that's not the best fit for you right now. And so tracking your leads from, say, Instagram, comparing it against the leads you're getting from mailings and other things like that, that'll help you a lot in deciding what to keep and what to kind of put on the chopping block. Okay, I'm going to keep moving forward here. So this is setting up your deal results. So actually, I'm going to scoot back to a couple slides. So we talked about the marketing actions. Then we talked about the lead results. So now we're talking about the closing results, or the deal results. So just tracking the deals that are happening. So this can be really simple. Again, we can get really granular and specific if you want. If we go back to the lead results, you can break it down by category as well. That maybe I should have done that here as well. But you can also just go really simple if you want, just closed from texts, closed from mailings, closed from the website, closed from, whatever the sources are where the deal actually closed from. And this is really showing you, like, this is the most important number, because even if you're getting a ton of leads from something, if they're not ultimately closing, then something is broken. And that kind of goes back to the conversion conversation from the beginning, that perhaps your conversion process is not very good. And so you need to look at how that system is running so that you can improve it. Because if you have a lot of really strong leads from your mailings, but then you're not actually closing those, and then this is, again, looking at, there's a lot of other numbers you can look at, like comparing to how well other people are doing and knowing what's normal versus what's out of the range of normal. All of this information is just so helpful in really establishing your business. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for a minute, give you guys a few minutes to catch up if you need that, ask questions, and then we're going to talk for just a minute about some simple lead follow-up, but I'm going to stop talking for just a couple seconds. Okay, are there any questions? Is this really exciting for you guys?
Well, it's important, Allie. I will say, I'm a big advocate, so I will encourage everybody.
Yes.
Pay attention and develop your systems. Allison says it's really good.
Oh, yay. Thanks, Allison. All right, so I'm going to jump into a simple lead follow-up system. Now, again, these can get very detailed and granular and complex, but if you haven't set up a lead follow-up system yet, or you're very new to it, these are just some really just very simple categories and ways that you can do your lead follow-up system to at least get the basic information you need to create a regular habit of following up. Because I think as anybody in any industry will tell you, that the money is in the follow-up. It's not in that first touch point. The stats are, some people say different things, but roughly I've heard it takes about 7 touch points to close a deal, to make a sale. That might, I don't know, like how specific to real estate that is versus, business in general, but the average is around 7 follow-ups before, or touch points, I should say, before closing a deal. So key information that you want to look at and have whenever have a particular person, you want to look at what mode was the last contact. So was it email? Was it phone number? So like, this is your lead and they've shown up and they're responding to you in some way. indicating that they are like indeed interested in what you have. So did you talk to them? When was the last contact? So has it been a month since you followed up? Has it been a week? Has it been a day? Like how long has it been since your last touch point? What was the result of the last contact? So did they not answer their phone? So maybe you reached out, you left a voicemail, and but there was no follow-up or no response from them. Or maybe they said, I'm interested, but not right now. So, this is where it's not just like a yes, no checkbox answer, but just taking a couple notes on each person so you can see their journey with you is really important. And then number 4, some good information is, what do they need next to help move them along? And, sometimes this can relate to barriers, like when you're talking on the phone with them, like listen very carefully to the questions that they have, because those questions are going to indicate what's preventing them from wanting to move forward, or what are they still unsure of. So go ahead and create a new tab in your spreadsheet and just set it up like this. Again, update this to what fits for and works for you, what information you want. But at the very least, you of course want their name and their contact info. Hopefully it's a lot more than an email address. Hopefully it's like an address, a phone number, all of that. And then just real simple. First touch point, when was it? What was the result? Second touch point, when was it? What was the result? So, if we go back to the lead, like the key information here, we have the mode of the last contact. So in the first touch point, like what was that touch point? How did you get in contact with them? And then of course the date for when they were contacted last, and then the result of the last contact. So, what's the result? And you can also take some notes here, like maybe you add another column and you just have notes on, where they are in their buying process. Like maybe they specifically told you like, hey, follow up with me in 30 days. I'm not ready right now. And so this will help you make sure you're following up at the right intervals. Because if you're following up like every week, you're going to really annoy some people and turn them off. But also, if you don't follow up enough, you're going to miss a lot of people who probably actually wanted and needed you to follow up with them, but you just weren't because you didn't have it marked down. You didn't have your system going. And so, taking these kinds of detailed notes about each person you're connecting with, or again, this is where you can hire out and have somebody else do this. This is really important. And I would really say, like, just keep adding your touch points all the way across until either they say, absolutely no, stop calling me, or until they're ready to move forward. Are there any questions on the lead follow-up?
I don't see any questions, but Patrice says your pipeline is your lifeline. So this is really good.
Yes. That's such a
I agree.
Okay, so we're pretty much at the end. I didn't want to do anything too overwhelming. So some key takeaways is start with what you have. Just look at where you're at right now, and then build a habit of tracking and reviewing. So if you're really unsure of what you need, just pay closer attention as you're doing your daily and weekly business activities to what kinds of information you're missing or needing to help you make better decisions. And then of course, always follow up. So, I've asked for questions a bunch of times, but this is kind of your last opportunity for questions if you have any.
If you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I will mention that, Allie, last year I had one traditional source of mailing that I did that I had in my head was extremely effective because it had been effective for about 2 years, but I got behind in logging my data. I was actually about 4 months behind, but I could tell something had changed. And by the time I went back and I plugged in the data, it became pretty obvious that what had been effective had stopped working about 5 months earlier. It had slowly been reduced, but I
Yeah.
pouring the same amount of funds into it. So it really is a great idea, guys. It's something that you have to be consistent with. Don't, because just because something worked in the past doesn't mean it'll continue to work. And if you take your eyes off of it, you know, it can end up costing you.
Yeah. Well, if there's no other questions, I will let you guys know that the next marketing meeting, we're going to switch away from the technical kind of number side and into our more creative side. And we're going to talk about Canva and how to do quick and quality designs. I have 2 projects that you'll get to choose from. If you haven't created a business card for yourself yet, then that's project number 1 that you can choose from. And, you know, again, it's going to be hands-on, so just be ready to toggle back and forth and get to work. But, you know, you'll create a nice business card by the end of the night. Or the other project option is going to be creating social media templates. And so you'll walk away with like a couple nice templates for you to basically be able to put, you know, new quotes or information in, but keep it all on brand. So we're going to talk a lot about like colors and branding and being consistent and like what is good design, like how do you make sure things actually look good? And then I would love to, I do have an idea for October as well, what to do, but if you guys don't mind, I would actually love to get some of your feedback about more topics that you'd love to learn about for marketing and for these meetings, so I can make sure that, you know, I'm giving you guys truly valuable things for where you're at right now. So if you don't mind, just pop in the chat right now and let me know other topics and things that you'd love to learn about with marketing.
Okay, I don't know if you can see them, but we've got, Alicia said she'd love to learn how to do social media posts.
Okay.
And then ways to make your bandit signs different from others.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Creative, yeah. Garima said, thanks so much. This was great. She's learned a lot.
Okay.
April said it was awesome.
Thank you. You know, maybe for Canva quick and quality designs, maybe we add bandit signs to that. That might be kind of a fun and interesting project. So maybe that'll be project number 3 that you can choose from, kind of one of 3.
That would be great. Yep, Alicia said this was definitely informative. April agrees.
Thank you. Well, and finally, I just want to throw my contact info. If you guys have more questions, I'm available. You can like literally text me. I've got clients that text me, or, you know, people that have questions. So this is my phone number, my work phone number. So you can text me, email me. There's my website, allieandcomarketing.com. And also in kind of each month for my business, I'm doing a different kind of a free offer. And so this past month for July, I did free co-working sessions to work on marketing together. And this month, I got a lot of feedback that people have tech questions. So tools and tech Q&A is going to be on Wednesdays from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m., where you can just literally show up and ask me like, how do I do this? How does that work? What kind of tool do you have that could help solve this problem? I realized actually recently that I have used so many different kinds of tools for marketing and business organization and things like that. And I feel like I have a lot to offer there. So if you have questions and want to show up on the call, it's free. It's on Zoom just for an hour. But you can go to allieandcomarketing.com/tools-and-tech. And that's where you can sign up. I'm limiting it to just 20 people maximum for the call. So that way we can kind of keep it more intimate and get most people's questions answered. But if that is of interest to you, I would love to see you guys on that call in August. But otherwise, that's all I have for tonight. Give you guys another minute or two to finish up. I'm gonna stop screen sharing.
We're getting lots of thank yous, and another topic is the best information to put on vehicle decals and T-shirts, as you can only fit so much. And people read it. So it seems like we're kind of getting into the design, you know, between.
Yeah, that's fun. I love, to me, I love like words and design is like my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah. So the topic that I'm planning on doing for October is authentic words that sell. So this is kind of gets into copywriting, but it's like how it, you know, it's like if you have decals or t-shirts or things like that, you know, like how do you figure out what words to use there or on social media or all these different places? You know, we both want to sell what we have and promote ourselves. We also want to be authentic. We don't want to be sleazy and scammy and pushy with this kind of stuff. And so I'm really excited about that topic. That's going to be what I talk about in October. So I think between the design next month and the copywriting in October, I think some of the t-shirt decal stuff might be covered. Okay, awesome. Well, I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much for staying till the end. I really hope that you guys got something from this. Again, feel free to email me, text me, you know, if you have questions on marketing. And yeah, I'll pass it off to Jackie.
No, Allie, thank you.
Thank you, Allie.
Thank you. And you kept everybody.
Woo!
So you get the gold star.
I do have a question. If you guys are still on and like want to message real quick, I'm super curious, like who really, like, do you guys prefer the Zoom format or do you guys want to be in person? Because I had some really fun ideas if we do show up in person, but we need a minimum number of people to do stuff in person. I had some cool group project ideas. So just like in the chat, if you don't mind, just put like Zoom if you prefer Zoom, put in person if you prefer that, or like I don't care if you don't care. Zoom. People like Zoom. At least 2 people like Zoom.
Yeah. Zoom in.
Zoom, but open to in person. Zoom. Okay. Wow. A lot of people like Zoom. Okay.
In person Zoom.
Okay. That's super helpful. Yeah.
Well, maybe it focuses more on Zoom, but you know, once a quarter, if there's something that's more geared towards in person.
Yeah. Well, let me just pitch you guys why in person could be so valuable. Okay. Especially for authentic words that sell. My ideas for that is going to have you guys practicing in person with each other. So if you feel uncomfortable with like pitching people, if you feel uncomfortable with like kind of public speaking stuff, or not even public speaking, but it's more the one-on-one conversations, like we need the head count up for in-person stuff. And I don't think we can properly do some of the exercises for that if we don't do in person. So we'll still have a great Zoom meeting, but I'm gonna have to change up exercises. But I feel like that'd be so valuable for people to be able to get, you know, in a small group and be able to practice some of these things and practice sharing their elevator pitch and things like that. How many people are needed in person?
And Allie, I think part of, you know, you're getting some Zooms and some in person. I think part of that is you've also got some people that when you are on Zoom, that can join you from out of town. Like I know April's in Wilmington with me. So, you know, maybe a good combination would certainly work.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And Alicia, it depends on the venue, but for in order for it to really work in person, I think, what do we need, Leslie? At least 25, 30? Is it more for Mez?
At Mez, it's more.
More. So it's
We've got a minimum room charge in that venue. So if we don't have 50 people in the room,
Yeah. But you know
Really
what? depending-
difficult.
Yeah, depending on the topic, we could also look at a Saturday session if it's a little.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Because,
yeah.
you know, the
Yeah,
6
we could
o'clock
do-
people are getting off of work. I love the idea of being able to practice and role play, especially in this business, because if you can't talk to somebody, it's going to be really, really hard for you to close a deal. And even if it's not your favorite thing to do, and eventually you can get an acquisitions team, you do need to know how to do it. So,
Yeah.
Absolutely. I like
Mhm.
that.
okay, well, maybe we'll look into either a different venue or a Saturday where we can pull into like maybe one of the hotel meeting rooms or something. We'll look
Yeah.
into it. Miss
Okay.
Ally, we'll look into the schedule and see what we can do.
Okay.
great meeting, Ally. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you everyone for staying.
thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Ally.
Um, oh, hey guys, give me 5 minutes.
Okay. Les, is Kathy on?
I'm here.
Okay.
Well, she's.
I got kicked out of that Vena thing. I think the audio was so bad, I lost it.
Don't need that long. I just got to go get a refill.
That was great.